Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Karen from the developer marketing team at Atlassian, and this is the Forge Roadmap webinar for Q4 2021. So we'll be doing this webinar once per quarter, and each time we'll be featuring presenters from across the Forge product team talking about what's ahead on their roadmaps. So it's really a chance to meet the folks who are working on Forge face to face and get some deeper context about what's new and what's coming soon. Today, we do have a lot of exciting content to share, but first I want to go over a few logistics to help make sure that you get the most out of the webinar today. So first up, we are joining you live. Our team is located around the world. So we're based in the US and in Australia right now. We do want the session to be interactive, and we'll be on the lookout for questions. You can send in those questions at any time during the presentation. We'll just go ahead and hold them till the end. We'll try to get through as many questions as we have time for. We do understand that some questions might need a little bit more research to properly answer. So if we aren't able to get to your question live, either due to time or needing to do a little bit more digging to get you a good answer, please post in the community and we'll have our team follow up with you offline. So I am going to share a link in the chat to a community thread where our team will be monitoring. So with that, I do want to mention also that the webinar is being recorded. So we will send it to you afterwards, just in case you have to hop off or if you have a colleague who couldn't make it today. It just takes us a couple of days to edit it, and then we'll email that to you. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at today's agenda. So first, I'll be introducing you to Johnny Ferguson, the head of product management for Ecosystem Platform. Johnny will take us through the future of the Atlassian ecosystem and the role that we expect Forge to play in that transformation. And then we've grouped the features that we'll be covering today into three main sections. So we have Forge fundamentals, we have Connect parity, and then looking beyond Connect. And then finally, we'll wrap things up with that Q&A session. And of course, before we get into it, the presentation today will include previews of unreleased features and forward-looking statements. So timelines and features are subject to change. We do ask that you consider these statements for informational purposes and not a binding commitment. We'll communicate changes to the best of our abilities, but these forecasts do involve known and unknown risks, uncertainties, and assumptions. So with that legal disclaimer out of the way, I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Johnny Ferguson. Johnny, welcome to the stage.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny Ferguson, the new head of product management for the Atlassian ecosystem. I've been at Atlassian for about 4 years working on our platform, and I'm really excited about working with you all on making Atlassian ecosystem the platform to easily build powerful and secure apps. I'm replacing Martin Suntinger as he takes paternity leave. And when Martin returns, Martin will assume a more strategic role for ecosystem overall. I want to kick things off by sharing where we see the ecosystem moving in coming years and the role Forge will play in that transformation. Most of you have been in and around the ecosystem for quite a while and will be familiar with our plans, but we want to make sure that we set the context. Over the years, each new generation of app development platform has played a key role in helping Atlassian and our partners reach a new stage of growth. On server, P2 established extensibility as a core Atlassian product value, and later, Connect has played an integral role in our cloud transformation. With Forge, we're looking into the future and imagining what the next phase of growth will look like. We're working backwards from those future goals to build the app development platform that will help us and you, our partners, get there. There are three key benefits Forge provides. Number one is that Atlassian hosts and runs your app code. With the rise of platform as a service and function as a service models, increasingly, software developers are less concerned with where their code is running. What matters is that it just works. But where does matter. When Atlassian hosts your application, it allows developers to benefit from the security, compliance, and data management features included in the Atlassian platform. 2, we also built Forge with developers and developer experiences as guiding principles. We designed a simple modular architecture for Forge. And 3, we optimized Forge developer tools to make creating a new app fast, easy, and delightful. We want developers to fall in love with Forge from the very first Hello World app. Today, we're seeing the number of new Forge apps explode, from the many creative apps submitted to Codegeist, our annual hackathon, to the marketplace apps that are in use today by customers. Forge apps solve for a variety of creative and innovative use cases. We have big ambitions for Forge, but we know we have our work cut out for us. While there are many use cases that Forge supports, there are still many that can't be built today. We're increasing our investment in Forge to unblock more of these use cases and in the future, make Forge the clear choice no matter what you set out to build. This begins with establishing a solid foundation for Forge, building the infrastructure so Forge apps are reliable and scalable. This also means making sure developers have the tools they need to work efficiently and understand how their app is performing in production. We know many of you watching today have existing apps built on Connect. If your use case was supported by Connect, we want that use case to be buildable in Forge too. Later in this webinar, we'll talk about how we're thinking about building Connect equivalent functionality in Forge. But at the end of the day, we're thinking about how Forge cannot be just equal to Connect, but offer something above and beyond what was previously possible. We'll preview a new feature later in the presentation that makes OAuth integration substantially easier, and this feature will be soon available in Forge. On a higher level, what we envision long-term is unlike any ecosystem that exists today. It sets a new standard for customer trust. We know that this shift won't take place overnight, and it will involve several parallel motions: migrating apps from server to cloud, programs that help customers make informed decisions about the apps they install, and bringing more apps onto the Forge platform. We know this is a lot for partners to keep up with, and we know we need to do a better job of providing clarity on where partners should invest their resources. But beyond that, we know partners have a sunk cost in Connect. We want you to be able to get the benefits of Forge without a huge investment, and we don't expect you to walk away from what you've already built. In a recent blog post, we shared how the Connect on Forge process is starting to take shape. This process is divided into 4 progressive states, where a Connect app can gradually incorporate the capabilities and benefits of the Forge platform. There are a couple of important takeaways from the blog post that I want to discuss here. The first is that we want partners to be in the driver's seat. We know that every app has different requirements, and we want to minimize disruption and put partners in control of what changes are made and when. The second is that some of the changes we outlined are tied to important security updates. Specifically, remote iframes and JWT Auth pose a risk due to security vulnerabilities, and for this reason, we've made the decision to phase their usage out eventually. Our promise to partners is that we won't enforce aggressive timeframes for removing support for JWT Auth or iframes in Connect. So what does this mean for you today? There are a few key features Atlassian needs to ship before Connect apps will be able to migrate to Forge, OAuth, and UI, and we're currently in active development. A timeline for shipping this unblocking work is 2022, and we're hoping for the first half of the year. Some apps will be able to make this change sooner than others, but at the latest, every Connect app should be able to reach state 2 by the end of 2022. However, and I want to emphasize, this is the date when developers can start the process of moving their apps to state 2. It's not a deadline or a date when any Connect services will be turned off. So let's address the elephant in the room. So what about remote storage and remote compute? Moving an app to Forge won't mean that you have to leave behind functionality that you rely on. We expect that most apps will start with small steps to adopt Forge and increase the Forge footprint of their apps over an extended period of time. For example, Forge does support remote storage and compute, and we expect that some Connect apps will continue to use those remote services. The gradual adoption approach means that an app can still be a Forge app, even if you aren't using all of Forge's features. However, customers want to know how their data is used by apps, and we're increasingly transparent around which services data is shared with. When customers ask these questions, Forge will be the one tool partners can use to show data is managed according to best practices. Now, we acknowledge that this is a transformative change for the ecosystem, but we're seeing strong customer demand reinforcing that this is the right direction and will benefit you and your organization in the long run. Savvy enterprise customers are telling us that they expect data management and security best practices to extend to the apps they install, not just the core product. Our internal research shows that enterprise admins look for specific signals or attributes in marketplace partners when selecting a new cloud app. These include transparency and security posture. Customers want this to be disclosed upfront in app descriptions or the marketplace partner's site. It also includes trust. For customers, trust can mean several things. It often translates to larger, well-established marketplace partners, good reviews, evidence that peer support will be available for the app via community, ongoing marketplace partner support for the app guaranteed. Forge is becoming another trust signal for enterprise customers. And unlike signals such as being a large and established partner company or having the resources to offer high-touch support, Forge is something that partners of all sizes can implement. Some partners with Connect apps will want to know how they can move to Forge sooner instead of gradually adding Forge functionality over time. There is an alternative path. Some Connect apps can skip states by being rewritten on Forge. This puts them directly into state 4 without passing through the other states first. For now, apps that can be rewritten on Forge are those with simple storage and compute needs and equivalent Forge modules available. If you're not sure if your app can be rewritten on Forge and retain the same functionality, get in touch and we'll help you evaluate. Importantly, if you have a Connect app in the marketplace already, you don't want to duplicate your listing or start your install count from 0 when you build a Forge version. To that end, we've recently launched the ability for apps to transfer their marketplace listing from Connect to Forge. This allows the app to keep its existing reviews, install count, and build customers intact. For customers who have installed your app, the upgrade from Connect to Forge will feel like any other version update. If you've rewritten your Connect app on Forge, listing transfer is the final step that allows you to carry over your existing listing to the new Forge version of the app. If you're interested in moving an existing app to Forge, we want to support your efforts. Reach out to us through the community and we'll set up some time to talk with you. We've come a long way since Forge was announced in 2019, but we acknowledge that we have a long way to go. We're using many sources of input to whittle down this list, including feedback from partners and the community, usage data, and the ever-changing landscape of compliance. Here we have a snapshot of some of the top feature requests from the early days of Forge. Today, many of those features have either been delivered or are actively being worked on. That's not to say we're ready to take a victory lap. Much of the hard work of making Forge ready for every developer lies ahead of us. For the features that we've already delivered, we intend to keep iterating and smooth out the rough edges. For those that are slated for future development or exist in the backlog, we're committed to transparency around progress and priorities. We know that you're not just building on the Forge platform of today, you're building on the Forge platform of tomorrow. We're accelerating our investment in Forge to close feature gaps and unlock new opportunities for app developers. We recently launched a new public roadmap specifically for Forge. Our intent is to cut down on noise and give developers one single source of truth for the Forge roadmap. We'll share the link to the roadmap in the webinar chat. We're especially keen to get your feedback on the format. Our partners and developer community are the reason we're here today, and open two-way communication is going to be the key to building the future of Forge and our ecosystem. If Forge doesn't meet your needs today, we want to work with you to understand your use case and provide a solution. We will be sending data gathering surveys to all of you in the near future, and I can't stress how important it is for you to provide us the data to help us make your app successful, whether they are on Forge or Connect. You can also provide feedback to us via TPMs, community or Forge tickets, and of course, one-on-one. I hope to meet all of you in the coming days, and now I'll hand over to Sam.
Thanks, Johnny. Hey, everyone. Hi, my name's Sam. I'm an engineering manager working in the Expand pillar in Forge. So my team's mission is to have support for Forge everywhere, including products and platforms. So in this section, I want to talk a bit about what work we're doing to get the Forge fundamentals right. If there are a Maslow's hierarchy of developer needs, these would be the features that sit at the very base of the pyramid, talking about storage, compute, observability. They're the features that we consider table stakes for developer experience. So my team, we recently wrapped up an early access program for async events. This feature, I'm happy to announce, is now generally available. So async events and async processing provides a set of new APIs to push long-running jobs to a queue so they can be executed in the background. We know that previously the 10-second invocation timeout has been a serious blocker, and async processing is intended to solve for that pain. With async processing, jobs that will take longer than 10 seconds to run can be split into smaller batches. Developers then have the flexibility on how to integrate this feature into their apps. You can choose to process these events sequentially. You could add a processing delay to each event, or potentially even process them in parallel. While this should allow developers a way to work within the 10-second limit in most cases, I'm also happy to share that we've just increased the default timeout for all Forge modules to 25 seconds. We've also implemented this feature in a way to give Atlassian product teams developing extension points the flexibility to set a specific timeout that's more closely matching the use case of that extension point. To take advantage of this new feature limit and this new limit, app developers will just need to redeploy their app. But we're going to continue to gather feedback and share back any further updates we get on this back with the community. So the next feature that I want to highlight is the Secure Storage API. So the Secure Storage API was shipped a little while ago, but addresses a frequently raised challenge that we want to make sure Forge users are aware of. Secure Storage API is used to encrypt and store sensitive values like API credentials from third-party services. For example, if you're using an API that has your customer generate an API token from the service's dashboard, Secure Storage API helps you store and retrieve that token securely in your application. We implemented this API adopting the same familiar interface as the general storage API, but it's separate for a good reason. You shouldn't expect to see results for keys that are set with the Secure Storage API in the general storage search response. I'm pretty proud of what my team has built here with these two new APIs. I look forward to seeing what our community builds with them. Thank you. So now I'm going to hand off to Aggie, who's part of the Operate pillar, and let her share some of the work her team's been up to.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm Aggie. I'm one of the PMs on the Forge team, looking after the developer console. And in particular, right now, my team is working on solutions to give you more visibility into how your apps are performing in production. You probably are aware that earlier this year, we released the basic logging functionality, which enables customers to download logs and share them with you, the app developer. Some of you have provided feedback that this process is taking a bit too long. There is some back and forth involved until the issue is resolved, and it's not really scalable when you have to troubleshoot with multiple customers at the same time. So last week, we released additional functionality enabling customers to continually share logs with you, the app developer. I have to say that privacy is a significant consideration for us, so we are still enabling customers to download the logs before they enable sharing. But with this functionality, we expect that the time to resolution will be substantially decreased, and you will be able to troubleshoot much more quickly and efficiently. This is what the view would look like from the developer point of view in the developer console, and the next screen would be what admins see in the connected apps in Admin Hub. Next up, we have app monitoring. We are in active development to build a monitoring dashboard within the developer console. In the next couple of months, in even quarters, we will be releasing batches of metrics that will enable you to have a view of your app performance, the general health of your app, and the first batch of those metrics is coming early next quarter. We will be starting on the next screen, you will be able to see with 3 metrics, one of them being success rate. This is the percentage of functions invocations that are successful. In addition, we will be sharing the invocation count and function errors, both count of errors and the type of errors. Now, I want to set the expectations right. Initially, you will have visibility across those metrics on app level. And in the future, we'll be able to drill down to individual installations and see how individual installations are performing. We will be running an early access program, and Karen will be sharing the link so we can express interest to participate in this early access program. Thanks, everyone. I want to hand over to Nia.
Sweet. Thanks, Aggie. So, hi, everyone. My name is Nia, and I'm a product manager on Forge. More specifically, I'm around the access and trust pillars. So today, I'd like to start talking about Connect parity. And when we think about parity of Connect and Forge, we look at it across several dimensions. So we look at stuff like UI, we look at REST APIs, we look at extension points, we look at modules. And one thing we really want to drive home is that we are really committed to functional parity between Connect and Forge. And that means that every use case that can exist on Connect, we want to support on Forge. Now, functional parity, though, doesn't always mean UI parity. And I want to talk more about the nuance between function and UI. So when we say functional parity, what we mean is a developer or user, so yourself, basically, when you're familiar with Connect and you can do certain things on Connect, you can expect to do the similar things on Forge or use a Forge app for similar things. So we've heard the community and you asking us, what modules we'll be working on and what equivalent modules will happen in Forge versus Connect. And this is something that's very difficult for us to answer because we're still collecting data, we're still trying to get feedback. But the main focus area is that we want to give you the same, we want to let you reach the same results with different tools that might make more sense in Forge versus Connect, for example. So to illustrate this, I'll give you one example of functional versus UI parity between Connect and Forge. You might be familiar with web panels. So they essentially, if you're not, they essentially allow you to insert UI, app UI into, or add content into different areas of the UI in product. And in Forge, instead of that, we have extension points. They'll be more clearly defined. And we are currently working to identify, or already worked to identify, the most used UI locations that are currently used by apps to inject those different elements into. So in terms of comparing the two, just to give you an example of what that might look like, let's say you had a button in a Connect app and it was placed in a panel and it was, let's say, 1/2, 2/3 of the way down. In Forge, you could still create the same button with the same functionality, but it would be placed slightly below where the button used to be in Connect, for example. So same function, slightly different UI. And I just want you to know that we are still heavily invested in gathering data and really understanding your use cases. So it's an ongoing process. So whether you're building a new Forge app or you are converting a Connect app to Forge, please give us feedback. Go on the community forums and let us know what you're doing. And if you see any use cases that are not quite there, like let us know, we're listening. And we do use your voices when prioritizing things for our teams, for our roadmaps. So we really do rely on you and your voice. So make sure to come through. Now, to give you some teasers and talk through some new Forge modules that are coming. I know we talked a bit about the parity, talking a bit more practically, I guess. We'll be looking at some projects that are currently in progress, include general pages module for Jira and Confluence that we recently found was, not recently, but we've been looking around for all the modules, and it was one of the more popularly used in Connect. So that's pretty exciting. As terms of up next after general pages, so in the next few quarters, we'll be looking at dynamic modules, UI bridge capabilities, module conditions, REST APIs, product trigger events. You might have seen one of my community posts about that recently. And in the future, which is within this next coming year, we'll be looking at internalization or internationalization and more UI extension points. So quite a bit happening and will be coming. And that's it for parity. Now, I am very excited to talk to you about going beyond Connect. So looking at some things that are really cool and can happen on Forge that couldn't necessarily happen on Connect and really differentiate Forge from Connect. So one such thing is external auth, which is a feature my team is working on and hopefully will be released very soon, potentially before the end of the year. It's very exciting. So external auth essentially allows you to create easy auth-to-based integrations within Atlassian. So auth to apps that get data from external providers into Atlassian. Now, if you're very familiar with Auth2, it's essentially a protocol, authorization protocol that is one of the most popular nowadays to be used by third parties that are not Atlassian, and including Atlassian, of course. And some examples of companies that use Auth2 include Google, Slack, can be GitHub, Asana. There's quite a wide range. It's just some examples, Figma, top of my head, but there's quite a few different providers you can integrate with using Auth2. Now, an example of what you could do is, for example, create an app that integrates with Google Calendar and lets you bring data from Google Calendar for a user into their Confluence page, for example, which is pretty neat. Now, in the past, you could do that in Connect, but it would be a pain. Like you would have to write the whole integration and adhere to the Auth2 protocol, the Auth2 standards from the ground up. And even if you wanted to go through the whole pain of setting up Auth2 yourself, one of the biggest problems is handling tokens. So as part of the Auth2 conversation, you have access and refresh tokens. And in Connect, you pretty much have to take care of them yourself. And if you're trying to serve large customers or enterprises or any security conscious customers, it's very difficult to convince them that the third-party account, the Google account, is secure in your hands, which is obviously, it's very difficult. And it was one of the downsides of creating these integrations. So what we decided to do is go from this whole big mishmash, making you do all this boilerplate, creating all this code, to a very nice and easily accessible manifest. So now, instead of having to do all that, all you have to do is go to your app's manifest, input some details about the providers, and voila, you have an external integration. Now, again, to emphasize, with this external auth feature, we essentially are taking care of that Auth2 implementation, the Auth2 integration. We take care of the tokens. They are hosted internally by Atlassian, away from you. So we make sure they are as secure as anything else is on Atlassian, which is pretty great. Takes away the responsibility from you and adds trust. And overall, it should be so much quicker and so much easier to create some really, really cool apps. I want to highlight that at the moment, we got some feedback, but at the moment, external auth would support a one-to-one connection. So if you have one user could log into their Google account or Slack account, but they would have to log into their own. You couldn't have an admin log into an account and then multiple users using that one account. It's something we're looking into, but at the moment with the current release, it would just be a one-to-one versus a one-to-many, just wolf shouting out. Now, one thing I've been hearing from the community recently, since I've joined, is that we should dog food our features more often. And I totally agree. I think it's a total fair point. And so we decided to collaborate with our smart links team internally to dog food external auth. Now, one quick secret, external auth is actually based on an internal service that was originally built and kind of used by smart links. And what we decided to do is collaborate with them pre-release and throughout the release to start migrating some of their providers from the internal service to the same external service you would be using if you were to build an external auth app or an app that uses external auth. So far, so good. We haven't encountered any problems. We've been migrating Asana at the moment, but they'll be migrating more providers as they go along, starting slow. And yeah, if there'll be any bugs or issues, we'll of course report them to you. We'll be fixing them in line with any other bugs reported to us by you or internally. But yeah, I'm hoping that's a pretty cool thing. So very soon you'll be able to, even before building an app, you could just use smart links and experience this external auth for yourselves. Yeah, pretty sick. So because I'm pretty excited about this, I think you should really try it out. There's so many different cool integrations you can build across so many different products. As you know, we are very well aware that customers of Atlassian don't use Atlassian products in a vacuum. So very often there are other products that are being used to do their business with. And we feel like with external auth, you now can create those super easy integrations, or at least you can easily create the integration between Atlassian and those other third-party providers or services or products that your customers use to keep them in Atlassian, keep them in Confluence, so they don't have to context switch all the time or thrash around. So I think there's some good potential here. I want to see you get creative, so that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, and that's it from me. So thank you very much, and I'll pass on to Karen for some Q&A. Cheers. Oh, actually, before Q&A, I do want to shout out, I completely missed it before. Joining touch on it before, we have a public roadmap. So when I talked about the modules and the new upcoming modules, they all should be listed, and other features, they all should be listed in the public roadmap. So make sure to check it out for all your Forge needs. It's currently the most up-to-date, publicly facing news boards for stuff that's coming into Forge. So make sure to check it out. Link is in the chat. Might have been posted again. So thank you. On to you, Karen.
Great. Thank you, Nir. Awesome. So we have a few questions to cover. One that actually came in ahead of time. So we'll go ahead and do the pre-submitted questions first. Our first question, submitted by multiple community members, actually. Is there any update on JSM support? So Sam, I'll just have you turn your camera on and come back up to the stage for that one. I know you're close to this project.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Karen. As I mentioned, my team is working very closely with product teams to help be onboarded to Forge. So we're very much in progress at the moment, working with the JSM team to add support for Forge. So when we talk about adding support, we're talking about bringing parity for things like the specific JSM extension points, adding native support for accessing JSM APIs, and even supporting product events that are triggered by actions within the JSM projects. So all of these things are in progress right now. I don't want to spoil any of the JSM team's big announcements in this space, but I can share that I expect to see some support for events and new extension points before the end of the year, with a larger release planned for the remainder within Q3 or early next year.
Awesome.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, Sam. I'll go ahead and keep you in the hot seat for one more. Our next question is, are there any plans to support Forge for Bitbucket Connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So our long-term plan is for Forge to be the unified extension platform for all Atlassian products. So we've actually even spiked and evaluated Bitbucket Cloud for support for Forge, but can't commit to any specific timeframe just yet. But it's coming.
Good news. Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Aggie, I think I'll send this next one over to you. So we had a question from Tom Moore. Is the observability endpoint also open to add it to our own platform?
Through our initial research, we learned that the larger, more established partners are keen to have the ability to export the metrics into their own existing observability tools, so they can set their own charts and set their own alerts. While the smaller partners, they don't have the resources to use external tools and to manage and prepare charts. So the decision we made was to start with the core metrics. And once we ship them, move into exposing and sending raw metrics to external tools. So this is definitely coming, but just after we tackle the core metrics that are important for all our developer community.
Excellent. Thanks, Aggie. Our next question, Johnny, I'll direct this one to you. Will there be an equivalent of Firebase real-time database in Forge? This partner needs that kind of functionality to preserve UX in some cases for their apps.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. We're currently doing a full review of all of our storage requirements, all the way from what we have now, which is key value storage, and adding incrementally more complex archetypes to support. RDBMS is something that we think that we will probably have to support in a remote fashion for quite a while. So specifically, I can't talk to Firebase real-time database in Forge, but if you currently run that remotely, then we would expect to be able to support that going forward.
Awesome. Johnny, one more from you from Julian. Module condition sounds pretty great. Will the storage API access within that conditions be possible?
Thanks, Karen. Julian, I can't really answer that specifically, but what I will say, just to echo what the previous question was, or the answer was, we're really working out exactly what we can support in a performant manner and meet the right level of complexity requirements that our partners are asking for. So we'll put a more complete answer in the blog that we'll follow the webinar up with. But at this stage, we're actually doing out our 2-year roadmap for hosted storage and how we support that going forward. But we do want it to be a complete story, whether it's remote or whether it's hosted in Forge.
Perfect. Sam, I'll bring you up for this next one. When will it be possible to place a Forge app inside the main navigation bar or Jira? So like in the apps drop down in the same way that you can do in Connect.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So in Forge, we're going to call this global page. All 3 of the products that we support in Forge today, Jira, Confluence, and Compass, are actively working on bringing support for this at the moment. All 3 are in progress, and I believe we should expect some more news on that soon. But yeah, I think we're talking November-ish, so very soon for Jira support for global page.
Excellent. And there's one that I'll actually just take quickly. We had a question about whether the recording of the webinar will be available. It will be. So if you've registered for the webinar, we'll email that to you within a couple of days. It takes some time for our video team to edit it. But it'll be posted in the community as well. So you'll definitely have access. Okay, next one, Nir, this question will be for you. Are you going to support OAuth for Microsoft as well? An example would be using MS Graph API after authorization.
Cool. So I'll be very careful answering this question because while Auth 2 is a standard, if I learned one thing as part of testing, it's not everyone aligned with the standards exactly. I have personally not tested Microsoft Graph APIs. We've been slowly going through different providers in terms of our popularity testing and going through all of them. So I can't comment about Microsoft right now. If they are following standard Auth 2, there shouldn't be any problem. We are trying to accommodate all kinds of flavors of Auth 2, accounting for different bearer methods and just going across the list as much as possible. If you do try to implement external Auth and you're encountering an issue with a specific provider, let us know. Go on the community forum, inform us. You might be able to find my calendar links and email from previous posts as well. So I'll be more than happy to talk to you But we are doing our best to accommodate all the different flavors we can find.
Thank you, Nir. Cool. Next question. This one will go to Johnny. So let's see. This is a question from Daniel Wester. With the Connect and Forge support, it was stated at functional parity, not UI parity. Are you considering partner operational costs like documentation, training, et cetera, as a hindrance? Will there be documentation about these gaps that can be provided to the customer?
Thanks, Karen and Daniel. Look, we certainly realise that these transformational activities aren't free. Whenever we have the opportunity to create collateral that can be used by multiple partners and address their cost concerns, we will seriously look at all of those. We really want to get feedback from you about any kind of incremental costs that you do see, and we're happy to work with you on developing collateral and sharing it and reusing it going forward.
Great, thank you. Sam, I'll bring you back for this one. We had a question, would JSM interact differently with the Forge app compared to Jira software?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, to be honest. But in terms of how products interact with Forge and behind the scenes, it's all the same. We have a same API that we publish to product teams to interact. But if we're talking about from an app developer perspective, which is what I'm assuming you are talking about, we will have native API support. When we have like the request Jira, request Confluence, wrapper APIs, we expect those to be available for whether you're calling a Jira software API, JSM API, or we intend to have that support for all future products that we support. Hopefully that answers your question, but if you have follow-up, please ask. And I can do my best to answer.
Excellent. Thanks, Sam. Johnny, another one for you. This question is, customers are frequently redirected to Atlassian.com/roadmap/cloud as a single source of truth for roadmap items. Are there any plans to embed Forge roadmap here as well?
That's a great question. So we do have two roadmaps. One is more focused for customers, and it's usually quite big objects. It'd be like data residency, or it's, admin controls for, session token management or something, quite big lumpy things. With the Forge roadmap, we actually want to speak directly to partners, and we want to be using quite technical language. So we probably wouldn't merge them, but we do actually have Forge items in that public roadmap. They're just more high level and kind of customer centric overall. I would love to get some feedback, and feel free to reach out to us in different forums, but we would like to include more information in the roadmaps and introduce more variability. So for example, if we're going to ship something, we think we're going to ship something in like 2023, but we don't know when, we want to be able to put it out there and forewarn everybody and say, look, this is what we're thinking. But on the flip side, we know that if we slip dates, sometimes we get the flame held to our feet kind of thing. So I'd love to get any feedback around that. We'd love to provide more information with greater variability.
Great, thank you. Sam, I think this one will go back to you. Is there a plan for the Forge Jira modules for JSM, like customer portal issue view?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar to what Nir and Johnny have been talking about getting functional parity with Connect, I've seen in the specific roadmap the JSM team are working on to bring something like 20 extension points to Forge specifically for JSM. That includes targeting the customer portal view. So we're talking about specific JSM interfaces. So yeah, absolutely, that should be coming.
Great. And another question for Johnny this time. When can we expect General Pages module to be available?
Thanks, Karen. Leonardo, so we know General Pages is it has a lot of interest from quite a few different partners. We're expecting that we'll be able to release it hopefully this year, actually, and it's in progress, but fairly well advanced. If I said November, that might be a little bit too soon, thinking that's only got a couple of weeks left, but either this month or next month, we're hoping.
Great. Just switching back and forth between Sam and Johnny here. Sam, are you also working with the JSW team to unblock their APIs and modules, like open DevOps experience, similar to what you just described for JSM?
Yeah, absolutely. From our perspective, it's actually the one project team that's working on unblocking the APIs for both JSM and JSW. So yes, all of those APIs should be unblocked and available within Forge very soon.
Fantastic. And then Johnny, this would be a good one for you. Question from Arthur. We want to convert to cloud as fast as possible. Should we start with Forge today or should we use Connect?
Sorry about that. That's a great question. It's super useful to look at your use cases in this regards. Connect will serve a large variety of use cases, more than Forge at the moment. If you have a kind of a lower complexity app that doesn't have advanced requirements when it comes to processing or offline processing or doing any sort of complex queries relying on an RDBMS, then I'd definitely look at Forge first, just so that you can miss that step. Great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just taking a quick pause here to check our question list. I think there were a few that we may have to answer in the community, just might need a little bit more research or might be a little too detailed to answer here. But looks like things are starting to slow down, so maybe we'll just kind of cap it there with Q&A. Or actually, we have one more. Sorry about that. Johnny, would you be able to comment on the priority to support future products from day one? So, for example, Compass support seems already visible in Forge.
Yeah, that's another great question. So obviously we, like our ecosystem capabilities are really focused around Jira and Confluence. However, we know that we want to provide more revenue opportunities to our partners by incorporating new apps and new products and new extension points, whether that's Trello, whether it's Bitbucket, whether it's JSM, for example. Compass, because it's a newly built product, had a very strong focus on building out extension points immediately, less complexity for Compass, and they were super proactive. So it was a slightly easier case. Now, we've actually got quite a few new products that we're building at the moment, and we're hoping that they will all go through the Compass-like journey. But our end, as Sam was saying originally, like our end goal is to have all of our products incorporated into the ecosystem and more extension points and more APIs to give you more use cases, and very specifically multi-product use cases that we want you to be able to solve for. So the challenge is going to come back to you, I think, into how you can actually exploit all of these combinations of APIs to make use cases that are super valuable for customers. We don't have all the answers when it comes to that. It's understanding these deep use cases, but we're fully expecting to support you and get you as close to the customers as well as our products within Atlassian, so that we can together build amazing use cases and stories.
Excellent. And we had one more. This one should be pretty quick to answer. Damien is asking, can we sell Forge apps on the marketplace currently today?
I'll take that one. Yes, you can.
Excellent.
Yes, we have free and paid apps on Forge already.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think we'll go ahead and just wrap it up there. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us on the line today. Thank you to all of our presenters. Wherever you are all over the world, I hope you have a great rest of your day.